Hey guys, I hope you are having a lovely snow week, and I've seen that a lot of you have worked on our interview narrative and the interview transcript, so I'm very proud of you guys. You've done an excellent job with your first draft, and so I just wanted to flip our class a little bit today and go over kind of some things that I'm seeing repeated throughout papers and ways to help you guys so you can succeed in this embedded assessment. And so first I just want to start with, let's think about the purpose. Why are we writing? Why are we writing this interview narrative in particular? Your writing needs to reflect your purpose. And so is your purpose to get everyone really excited about going to college? Or is your purpose to tell someone's story? Remember that our prompt, it needs to relate back to this idea of going from high school to adulthood. You guys have that creative freedom to figure out what you want that journey to sound like, and that's when you use language and stories and quotes to really help with whatever you want to do. But it needs to reflect that purpose of struggles and the journey and this idea of high school to adulthood. So remember that as you're writing your introduction. We're going to look to see that it reflects that. Okay, we're going to go over ingredients of an interview again, because I see that you guys are doing this in your writing, which is awesome, but we need to better cater it to, again, the purpose that we were talking about. And so ingredients of an interview. You need to have a title. Now, this doesn't need to be this crazy out-of-the-world title, but it does need to reflect who you interviewed and the information that you're going to tell us. So keep that in mind. Also, you need a hook. Now, some of you guys have been using direct quotes, which is awesome. You can use a story. You can use a shocking sentence. Think about, like, on YouTube, there's clickbait. So think about something that will get your readers hooked right away. Background information. You guys, I'm loving reading all the descriptions that you have. But remember, background information does not just reflect physical descriptions. It doesn't just reflect character attributes. This reflects everything needed for this introduction. So it needs to have some direct and indirect quotes like you see below right here. But you also need to have the physical description. You need to have some details about their journey, summarizing it a bit, and really just getting us excited to read more about this person. Your introduction is what hooks us. What will make us want to read more about this person's story? Because again, everyone has a really great story, but it's our job as writers to display, to show what this story is and why it's important. And so it's really exciting because you guys get to do this and you get to showcase someone's story in a really unique way. Okay, let's talk about direct quotes. I've been seeing that you guys have been using them, but we have to make sure that they are formatted correctly. You need to have the correct format. If you're quoting within a sentence, which means you're starting with your own writing and you're ending with their quote, for something like this where you have a lead in, Anna told me, you need to have a comma before you start quoting what she said. Now, if what you're saying flows directly in, like you would say, she liked video games, like, and then you quote what she said, like she liked Xbox and all that, and you would not need that comma. But for something like this, where you have a lead in, you need to make sure you throw that comma in before the quotation. And then you would have the punctuation at the end. You would have a period whenever you finish. So if you said her mother was nice, you'd put her mother was nice, period, within the quotation. Now, if you're beginning a sentence with a quote, which a lot of you guys did, and I loved that, you would start, his mother was a great person. You need to have a comma within that quotation mark. It needs to be marked off by that. So you'd put the comma, then you'd end it with a quotation mark, said Danny. This allows just us to see the flow of your writing, and it also sets their words apart so it's not your writing. If you have questions on the direct quotes, just email me and we can talk about specific situations. But these were the patterns I saw overall. There's some other rules, but don't worry about that until you need to. We'll be going over that more in class. Okay, let's talk about MLA Format. So I had a document, which we're going to go to in a second, with an example interview. We're writing in MLA format. This is just a way that people craft papers in a way that the format is consistent, so you can look at something and everything looks about the same. It's pleasing for the viewer, and it's some of the rules for writing. And so we're going to be writing with MLA format for this class, which means you need 12-point font. You need Times New Roman font. It needs to be double spaced. There needs to be a header, and there needs to be a heading. So we're going to go to that example transcript or interview right now so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Okay, so you guys should have access to this in your Google Drive. This is an example formatted, MLA formatted interview. As you can see, we have 12-point font. You can see here, you can choose 8, which is really tiny. Please don't do that. You could choose 60, but we are going with 12-point font. That's the rule that you guys will always follow for MLA format. Following, we have, as you can see, Times New Roman. Now, I like to get creative. You can see these are some of the fonts that I use. But for MLA format, we stick with Times New Roman. So make sure that your paper is completely in Times New Roman. Also, I just want to mention with your title, notice how it's still 12-point font in Times New Roman. I didn't make this big, I didn't make this crazy, I didn't use different font. I just stuck with MLA format. And it is centered. As you can see, you can choose to make everything even. It can be scaled to the left, scaled to the right, but we're going to center our titles. Everything else does not need to be centered. Everything else will be scaled to the left. You'll align it with the left, and there's the button that you use. Okay, let's see what else we need to talk about. Okay, double spacing. Oh, sorry about that, guys. My bad, technical difficulties. Okay, so we need to talk about double spacing. So, as you can see there, it's not single spaced, obviously. But this is what you guys will do. So you can highlight all of your text, and you can go to this little guy in the right hand corner. And you can see once you click on it, you see single, 1.15, 1.5, and double. If we do single, it looks like this. It's harder to read. But if we go to double, you get this. All of your papers need to be double spaced. Now, some of you guys may have made a big entry before you put your title. You don't need to do that. The double spacing allows just enough space so we can see the difference. Okay, let's see. Your header. Your header is different than your heading, and they go in 2 different places. So when you do your header, you're going to click on the top. You're going to click on the top of the paper where you usually wouldn't type, and you're going to write your last name. As you can see, I did that. Now what you can do is you'll go to insert, because the page number you need to insert differently than typing your last name. And to insert a page number you're going to push header. This gets you to the point where you can type your last name and the page number. If you have questions or concerns about that, it's a little more complicated, just let me know and we can talk about all of that. Okay, now let's talk about the heading, because that does not go where the header goes. It goes right where you can start typing. So you're going to have that inch margin, that 1-inch margin, and then you start typing your heading right beneath. And so you'll write your name, your first and last name. You can choose my name or Miss Richards' name, it's up to you. And then you're going to put the block that you're in, or the class. So if you were in science, you may put biology first block, but we're in honors 9th literature, so you're going to put honors 9th literature. Now this date's a little old, but this is how you're going to format a date. It's not how you've seen in the past, most likely. And so I put 18 January 2018. For you guys, you're going to put the due date. You're going to put the day before the month. So you'll put the due date, the month that the date that the paper is due, and then the year. That's how you always format the date for papers. It doesn't matter if you finished your paper a week before, you're still going to write the due date. This allows us to be stay accountable for grading, and it also allows us to see, okay, when did they write this paper? And we know that you may be like, I finished this paper way before. I don't want you to think I'm slacking. It doesn't matter. We won't. It'll reflect in your writing if you were. So make sure that the date is formatted correctly. Again, if you have questions, let me know. Okay, let's go on to the introduction. So I don't need to read all of this because you guys should have read it, and also this is just talking about the purpose of our paper. But I want to show you something. We do not have, when you make this centered, when you center it, you have to go back and manually scale it to the left. When you scale it to the left, it'll look like this. Now, when you're starting a paragraph, you have to do something called indenting. You guys may or may not know this. And so this is just a way to acknowledge, hey, I'm starting another paragraph. I want you to read this. All you do is you push that tab button. It's on the left side of your keyboard, right above the caps lock. That just allows us to see, hey, it's a new paragraph. And you guys can read all of these notes on the side if you don't want to go back and watch this video. Okay, now let's talk about your actual transcript. Another way to say that is your interview. So I saw a lot of you guys have very, very long answers. Now we do want you to quote people, but you do not need to include the entire answer if it does not relate to the question. Now it's up to you what you need, and we can talk about it individually, but just know you don't need a page per answer. You can go back and look at that Sammy interview and see that that's not really how an interview looks. If you feel that you need that, we can talk about it, but just let us know if you have questions. You do not have to put quotation marks around the transcript. The initials let us know that it's being quoted, and we can see here. See, the initials let me know that it's being quoted, that someone's talking. Now the way we want you to format that is like this. What you'll do is, you can see it lines up with that indentation. You're going to hit tab when you're over here. It's going to get you right here, and you're going to start typing. Then you're going to push enter, and you're going to push tab again, and you're going to start typing. Now, as you can see, I did bold the question, so it makes it stick out, and I can better read it. I think there's a better flow than if you would just have this. But it's up to you, whatever you want for your paper. You have that freedom. Okay, now let's talk about consistent verb tense. So I saw a lot of you guys used creative language in your writing, which is incredible. I love seeing that. But we have to make sure that our verb tense is consistent. So one big problem that many writers have is to confuse verb tense for no reason. And here's an example. Marty McFly went to fly to the future and will get the girl in the end. Now it makes sense, but that verb tense is not consistent. You have, he went, so Marty McFly went in the past to will get the girl in the future. Sentences can't time travel, and so we have to make sure that whatever we're writing, whatever tense we're in, we finish that tense out. We want your writing, your introduction, we want that verb tense to stay consistent. So if you are using present tense, stick with present tense. If you're using past, stick with past. If you're using future, which may be a little more tricky, stick with future. So with the past tense, you're covering an event for a newspaper, writing a reflective personal narrative. So you could definitely use the past here. That's going to be things like was, happened. I can provide other examples in a Google slide for you so you can see what I'm talking about. Present tense, that's what I'm talking in right now. You're going to use is. You're going to say, I'm jumping. You want to keep it present so that you could do it at this moment. And then future is things that you plan to do. So I will get to that. I will finish grading those papers. I will go out when it gets a little warmer outside. Things like that. If you have questions about the verb tense in your paper, just come and talk to me. Okay, now here are some things that you need to make sure you're doing in your paper. So check the following things. Are your sentences capitalized? Are you capitalizing proper nouns? Make sure that the first letter of a new sentence is capitalized. It's easy to forget that because texting is a lot different than actually writing a paper. And also, are proper nouns capitalized? Are you capitalizing people's names, or are